right. Ready, Chris?
Yep.
Ready, Sabrina?
I'm ready.
All right. This is Inside with Outsiders. My name is Jeremy Asgari, and today we have former PR executive and founder, now Professor Sabrina Horn. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's so great to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. I've told you this before. I consider you one of my mentors in this. In a way, I've always reached out to you for any sort of questions on business or professional, and I need help with the direction I'm going to go. And I appreciate you always being there.
Always. It's a pleasure.
Well, I'm glad you're here now because we actually had you on a special version of this podcast when it was a panel for your book. We did a panel discussion.
A couple years ago, right?
Yeah, I can't believe it. It's like 3 years ago.
Something like that, yeah.
We had Anthony Martini, Jerome Lamar, Mary Pryor, and yourself. And it went really well. It kind of also motivated us to continue pushing the show, this podcast, and here we are. I don't know what episode this will be. This is like 60 plus episodes later.
It's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. But one thing we didn't really cover in the panel discussion, and also maybe even in your book, was your full-on story. This is a conversation. And what we want to do in this conversation is learn about the events that transpired in your life, whether it be personally or professionally, that landed you where you are now. Mm-hmm. So my first question I ask everybody is, where are you from?
Where am I from?
Yeah.
I am originally from Connecticut, but spent half my life going to school, going to college, grad school, and then moved to California for 25 years.
So all the schooling was in California?
No, all the schooling was here in upstate New York and in Boston, at Boston University.
Okay. Oh, great communication school.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could get in now if I applied, because it's such a great school.
It's a good thing you're a professor. You don't need to.
Yes, right. There you go. But when I was in grad school, I didn't have a job, and it was about time to graduate, and my parents had moved to Palo Alto.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to ask you before we start jumping into Palo Alto and your parents. I feel very fortunate to have met your parents.
Yes.
And they're both, they were both amazing people.
My father called you Jeremiah.
Yes, he did. And I think it was your mother that asked me what I want to be when I grew up, right?
Yes.
And I was 30 at the time.
Yes.
So I have to also explain how I know you. So I met you through an ex-girlfriend of mine, Juliana, amazing person, and she was almost like your personal assistant and nanny.
Yes, extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of basically spending 3 years with you and your family and your beautiful 2 daughters, and seeing them growing up. And they were super young back then, and now they're like
little.
Masters and working.
Yes, past college.
Yeah. Yes, I remember. So meeting your family, I was with Juliana, your daughter, and your daughters in Carmel, I believe.
Was in Carmel, yeah.
Yeah, and
beautiful place.
Your father is a pioneer, right? He's an innovator. What was it? And where are your parents from?
Yeah, so my parents are from Dresden, which is where the fire bombings of 1945 were.
Germany.
In Germany, and decimated that beautiful city. It was supposed to be the jewel of Europe. And so my mom survived the fire bombings of that time. And my father, who I think was like 17, he was being trained to be a paratrooper. And so by the time the war had ended, he had finished his training. So thank God.
Just in time. Oh, war ended just in time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, my father, both my parents were innovators, but my father was a research chemist, chemical engineer, and he invented the formula for Lycra, which is anything that stretches. Yeah. And so he did that at Union Carbide. They sold that patent to DuPont, and the rest is history. Yeah. And my mom.
I mean, he changed fashion.
He changed fashion.
I mean, we're in the North Face showroom here recording.
Yes. Right.
And
it's filled with Lycra.
Yeah, it's filled with Lycra. So if it wasn't for your father, a lot of this apparel wouldn't be here.
We would not be comfortable.
No. Tight jeans would be very tight.
Tight jeans would be very tight and uncomfortable, But my mom was no slouch. She had a master's in chemistry, which at that time was very rare for a woman to have a graduate
I'm
degree.
assuming it'd probably be rare for anyone to have at that time.
In 55, 56.
Wow.
So she invented the formula for the glue that was used to bind books, and she was an adhesive specialist. I don't know if I ever told
didn't
you
know that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So the two of them were recruited by Union Carbide to come to the U.S.
Right.
and invent whatever they could invent there. And so I was born in West Virginia, but raised in Connecticut.
I thought you were born in Germany. I had no idea.
No.
But it makes sense because I know that was their first stop, right?
I'm a Southern belle.
No, no comment.
Yeah.
You don't come across as Southern at all. Obviously, you're not.
Definitely do not. No. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I really had no idea. I mean, I met them both, and obviously this was, later in their later years, but they were so sharp, right, and so personable, and they're very, very, very happy I got a chance to meet them.
Yeah.
Was there ever? I mean, they've accomplished amazing things. Was there ever the pressure from them or on yourself to accomplish just as much as they had?
Yeah. Listen. So my parents were both chemists, and my closet was filled with chemistry sets that they would give me for my birthday every year and for Christmas. And I didn't like chemistry, which is sort of a problem. You know, I liked communications. I liked journalism. I liked storytelling. And that was the path, obviously, I chose. But being an only child of German immigrants and a girl, you can imagine, the stakes were incredibly high. And
when did you know you wanted to go that direction?
I would say in college.
Okay.
You know, I always had this need to be understood and a need to communicate with other people in order to be understood. Mm-hmm. And part of it, I think, was because German was my first language. My mother couldn't really speak great English. She could speak English, but not fluently when they arrived in this country. And so I think that was just always a thing for me. And I love putting people together who have no reason to communicate with each other and making something happen. Right. I find that so exciting. Yeah. And I built my career around it.
And I'm just curious because parents that both have a chemistry background and their daughter announces she wants to do communications.
Oh yeah.
What was their reaction?
Oh, so
did they understand what it was as well?
Well, my father, so I chose public relations. Like I was straight shot. Like I wanted to get a master's degree in PR, and then I wanted to have a career in PR. And my father, at that time, PR didn't have the reputation it has today. It wasn't seen as strategic. It was more publicity oriented. Beautiful girls in tight dresses at car shows, that kind of thing. And so I don't really think my father fully appreciated the discipline, but he knew that I was goal oriented. He knew that I wanted to be in business, and so he supported the idea of me going to grad school. But I'll never forget the night before I started my company, and I had won a client, my first client, and I said, Poppy, I'm gonna start my own company, which he knew, that I had in mind. And I'm being in California at that time, there's innovation and new companies starting and failing.
Well, what part of California were you in?
San Francisco, Bay Area. So I'm right there in Silicon Valley, right? And it's almost like failure is okay because, you make a mistake, you fail, you just try another company. Right. And so I had, of course, done my homework and, really thought about the risks of all this and wrote a business plan and all those things that one should do. But that night that I told him, Poppy, I'm gonna do this. He said, I don't think you can do it.
That's in your book, right?
It's in my book. Oh, it crushed me.
Right.
It crushed me. And, here I am, trying to control my own destiny and following my parents' footsteps in my own way. And, I don't think you can do it. And in the end, it was a father trying to protect his daughter from possibly failing. Right. But I didn't see it that way, and I was just devastated. And
Are you sure he didn't do that to maybe put some more fire under your ass and motivate you further? Like, because you seem like a very competitive person, and you have from what I've seen and what you've proved, that you have a drive that's incredible.
Yeah.
So maybe he felt that would further drive you.
I think he wanted to make sure that I knew what I was getting myself into, right? And that I had the conviction and the obsession
Right.
to see it through, not just the good times, but very, very bad times. And my aspirations at that point were very, I won't say low, but like pretty small, right? Like I just wanted to have a couple clients,
Right.
maybe work with a couple freelancers, you know, make breakfast in the morning, leave at 5, go work out, you know, have a nice night.
Right.
And, you know, so that didn't happen.
How long did that, how long did you think that was possible?
Like for 4 months.
Really?
Yeah.
But were you following that kind of lifestyle for 4 months?
I mean, I tried, but here's the thing, be careful what you wish for, right? Like we were at the peak of a brand new cycle, a paradigm shift in technology, and I planned it that way. Like it was like a wave that I wanted to get on.
So you saw this.
I saw this because I studied, you know, I wrote my master's thesis on high-tech PR.
Okay.
And so I kind of I'm not a technologist,
Right.
but I understand technology and I understand market waves and trends.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's better to start on something that's on its way rather than on its way out, right? And so, like I don't want to sound pompous, but it was literally like fishing in a barrel.
I mean, shooting fish in a barrel.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, to get clients, and we never made a single phone call. Like they all came to us. Yeah. They all came to us.
I, from a perspective, from my experience with outsiders, when they come to you, they understand. And it's so much easier. When you're pitching them, it's like having to explain how it operates, how it works, then convincing them this is good for them.
No. No, I think our way of doing public relations and communications was different. It was more strategic, but it didn't take long to explain that. And when I did explain it, it was like, yes, that this is like the kind of intelligent counsel and advice that we need. It's not just a firm that will execute and write press releases and you know, spray and pray. That was not what I wanted to do. But you also made another comment that, you know, I'm a very competitive person, and I'm actually not.
Really?
No, I only compete against myself. Because
that's the toughest form of competition.
Yes. But I never looked over my shoulder at, you know, these other firms, or kind of like, you know, like I didn't care about them.
It's genius, because I catch myself doing that sometimes, and I think focus on my lane, because I'm not repeating the lane they are. You know, I'm not trying to duplicate what they are, compete and operate the same way they are.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, that's something I catch, because I am competitive. In every realm. I'm not a good loser. So that being said, I have to consciously make an effort not to compare myself to another group or whatever industry I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, of course you want to be informed, and you want to kind of watch what trends are happening, and you hear about, you know, oh, this one agency is like, you know, they just added this new blah, blah, blah. And, you know, like, okay, like, but it's not like I follow them. There's no herd mentality, right? It's like,
well, you can if you want to make your own footsteps. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, you just like, this is what I think we can do. And it was always, hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Yeah.
And find some way down the middle.
And that's pretty early on in your book, this story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I learned that actually from my parents, right? Because of the life situation that they found themselves in, and, you know, in war times, and, you know, coming to America with $60 in your pocket, and, you know, creating something out of
the immigrant story is so amazing.
It's
no matter where they come from, it's just like going against the odds.
Yeah.
But making it work.
But I translated that into like my own culture in my company. Like, be smart, do your homework, like, eyes on the prize, right? But shoot for the stars, and then work your way back to today and figure out, okay, here's how we can, get to those stars. But then, pardon my language, but, shit's going to fall from the sky that you didn't anticipate, and market trends can come to bite you in the butt, and you have to be prepared.
I mean, as a CEO, and I realized this a couple of years ago, but really felt it last year, all I do is problem solve.
Yes. Oh,
all it is
exhausting.
Problem solving. Always. And then when you have a break and you don't have to problem solve, then you have to really hope that your passion can inspire you to be creative and come up with new ideas to grow the company or stand out, like you said, create new footprints.
Yeah. I mean, it's exhausting, right? And the more successful you become and the bigger you become, right, the more problems
Exactly.
Just,
there's the best rapper ever, B.I.G. says more money, more problems, but more success, more problems.
Yeah. I mean, and my business is a people business. It's a service business. And you're only as good as the folks who walk out your door every night. And so, more people, more problems.
Yeah.
And we actually grew to a point where I decided I didn't like being that big. And I decided we could be more profitable with fewer people, doing more strategic work. And so big is not always better.
So essentially, did you increase, it's such a demand, you increase your supply. Your demand was amazing. So then what you did was you basically decrease what you were willing to take on, but increase your costs, your price. And that way you make more money, but with more focus on better quality as opposed to quantity, right?
It was a little bit of both. So we decided to work with some bigger companies that had bigger budgets.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was more interesting work in a way too, to work with bigger brands. That was fun for the employees, but working with startups is it's crazy, but it's awesome.
Right.
And so the key was always you can't just only have big clients, because if one of them leaves, then you're toast and you have to do a layoff. And you can't just only have little clients because they'll burn you out.
Right.
So you have to have a nice strategic mix of a couple big fish, a bunch of small ones, and some nice little guys in the middle.
Yeah.
And so it's fluid, right?
And if I'm thinking about the brand partners we have, because essentially Outsiders is a marketing agency, right? We're an outdoor adventure social club, but our revenue comes from our marketing budgets that we get from brand partners. And whenever it's felt the best is when we had a whale, a big partner, something in the middle, which will usually be someone who takes on 2 or 3 events, but with bigger budgets, but not the whole year. And then the monthly retainer clients, those have been great. And that's when I feel comfortable.
Right.
Comfortable in the sense where we have what we need to grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, North Face is a pretty good one.
North Face is amazing. We're working on figuring out the 2024 partnership with them overall outside of this podcast. And then hopefully when everything's sorted with that, and then we can think bigger with 2025 with more lead time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, to your earlier point, it's exhausting always solving problems. And it got to the point where I was okay, I want to try and solve fewer problems because it wears on the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would think ahead of okay, what could happen that's really bad or annoying, and how can I avoid that?
Mm-hmm.
And it actually was very good of me to learn that skill, because I learned to anticipate things, right? And then to plan for them just in my back pocket,
somewhat of a SWOT analysis.
Yeah. But with every move or decision or hire or a new client, right? Okay, what could go wrong here?
Yeah.
And in that way, I avoided some of those problems. And I also took better account of when problems are mistakes, right? Sometimes a problem is a result of a mistake.
Right.
And so so what was the mistake, and how can I not repeat that mistake?
Right. There's a story you mentioned in your book which stood out to me the most, because your book is called Make It Don't Fake It. Right. Make It Don't Fake It. So which is about being authentic. right? Authenticity in I mean, not just business, but every aspect of your life,
every
right?
aspect, yeah.
But there's a story where shit hits a fan and you guys really messed up. But from there, it changed your systems in place, but it also owning up to that issue. But it was a funny story. Funny now, you look back at it.
Yes,
but
it was horrible.
Can you talk about that story? Because that book, that stands out the most out of the entire book for me.
Was it the IBM story where I cried?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The IBM where you cried.
Yeah.
I need details. I forgot. It's been a while since I read the book. So.
Yeah. So I was like 5 years into running the business, and we were invited to pitch the IBM Olympics account.
That's it. I knew we had to do something with the
Yes.
Olympics. And really quickly,
yeah.
in regards to what you just said about downsizing and focusing, this is prior to this, right?
That was prior,
Okay.
yes. Yeah. When we downsized, that was after the tech bubble burst, the dot-com bubble burst.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, everybody had to downsize, but that's another story. So we were invited to pitch the IBM Olympics account. And what that is basically that IBM provided all the information systems for, the timing and the infrastructure for everything that happened. It was, I think, the 1996 Olympics.
Okay.
And so I had just come off of a brutal roadshow with another client where I had been on the East Coast, like 30 meetings in a few days. Flew home, met one of my employees at the airport back when people could meet you at the gate.
Right, yeah.
And he gave me a big box that was really heavy, but it contained the overhead the slides for what I was going to present at IBM the next day. So I turned right around and took a red eye back to New York, stayed at the JFK Hilton, which is, you don't really want to, that's not a place where you want to stay. That it's much better now, but back then it was also not so good.
Right.
And so I really got zero sleep. And I met my colleague, Elizabeth, at a Kinko's in Queens, and IBM's headquarters is in Armonk, right? So this giant freaking stretch limousine takes us to this Kinko's in Queens, and it was sort of like a dream, right? And so I opened this box, and there's my slides, which were beautiful. They were the first time we could afford to buy a color printer.
What year was this?
1996.
Okay.
It was brand new
96.
technology then.
All right.
And so these overhead slides were printed in color with like the beautiful colors of the Olympic, the rings and the torch in orange, and we had the IBM blue. Like, I was so proud of those overhead slides. And so I opened the box, and there they are. But underneath is a ream, like 500 sheets of white paper, and a 3-hole punch. And I'm like, why did this wonderful person who worked with me, give me 500 sheets of plain white paper and a 3-hole punch when he knew I was going to go to a Kinko's and like maybe they have paper there,
right? And
maybe they also have a 3-hole punch,
right?
Anyway, so I was just sort of slightly threw me off a little bit, like, whatever. So then we make the copies, we get there, and we're in this room. It wasn't really a conference room. It was like a closet, mm-hmm. And it was misshaped. It had like 7 sides or something like that. And so we presented our slides on this corner because there wasn't like a screen. And so like half of the words on each page were sort of like deformed because they were, like on 2 walls that were not like, whatever. So it looked horrible. And then the economic buyer, the decision maker, he walks in halfway through my presentation, and which is so awful, right? And he flips through the paper version of the deck, and he's like, all right, what's the budget here? And he flips to the end, and then he's rattling my cage, and then he's like, where's your big ideas? I don't see any big ideas. And I couldn't even answer a single question. And I start to get so rattled and so frustrated and so offended and confused as to why I'm in this frickin' little fucking closet, pardon my language, with these weird walls that aren't symmetrical, right. And why my employee gave me a ream of white paper and a 3-hole punch. And so I started to cry. Oh. And I'm standing over, the overhead projector, which is what they used back in the day, and I start to cry. And I had my hair sort of like on one side of my face, blocking, this man.
Yeah.
And the tears drop onto the overhead slides and start to make the colors blend and into each other. And so then it became this like brown liquid trailing off the side of the projector, and literally there was a woman in the room looking up at the ceiling wondering if it was raining or like was there a leak in the ceiling. And then I just had to stop. Like I couldn't go on anymore. I completely failed and embarrassed myself and my company. And here I am pitching a huge account, like biggest account we ever pitched, the Olympics.
Right.
And so my colleague Elizabeth, she came up and she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "Hey, Sab, I think it's time to go." Yeah. And so I stood up and I'm just dripping snot, and she takes me into the bathroom, and these paper towels that are in the they're so hard, and like you could cut your skin with them, right? And I put my face in them, and then we head to the airport, and I used all my miles to like get an upgrade to business class for the two of us. I drank probably a bottle and a half of Chardonnay. Yeah. And Elizabeth got the stomach flu and was vomiting most of the flight home. Oh my goodness. So it was just like such an epic failure.
But from that epic failure came a whole lot of positive, right? So what was that part about? You said you couldn't answer the questions, you weren't prepared. How did this change your following approaches from there on out?
I mean, look, first of all, like if somebody walks in halfway through a meeting, let's back up to that. Right? Yeah. Like, I should have just said, how would you like us to proceed? Yeah. Like, how much time do you have? Right. And taken more of a position of control rather than just being so reactive to his rudeness. Right. And then when he continued to be rude, I should have just had the wherewithal to say, it doesn't look like today is a good day for us to be talking to you about our ideas, and really would like to have the full hour of your time, and so maybe we should just conclude here and maybe schedule another time to come back. Right.
We'll set it on your terms
on my terms, right? But I was so far gone. I was exhausted. Yeah. I should have not done a red eye on the back of a major road show where I was already exhausted. Right. Like, it was just bad planning.
That story stands out like crazy because everyone can can relate to some bad meeting, some failed interaction or pitch for that matter. Yeah. I feel like at this point, and I'm sure you had already done your 10,000 hours, you'd mastered your craft, but what you have to have the bandwidth mentally to also do it, and emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about, like solving problems it's exhausting, right? And you have to really become a good manager of your emotions and of your time, so that when you need to be on and fresh and really sharp, that you can be. You can't run yourself down and just think you can do it all. No, because you can't.
No, and I've been fortunate enough to get help with outsiders here and there. The first thing I really got help. Well, I got help with the director of partnerships. Darshan has helped us out tremendously, but getting rid of having to do all the social media was tremendous for us, because it's like 2 hours. It could be 2 hours a day. Sometimes it was faster if we had content, but like just being able to open up that amount of time to be freer was essential. So wait, this happens in '96. Mm-hmm. You're 5 years into your business by then?
5 years, yeah.
And how did the next 5 to 10 years take place? And when did you? We also want to touch on personal stuff. When did you end up starting your family and so on?
Right. So, I mean, always wanted to have a family. And we definitely did family planning. Like, I wasn't going to start a company and have kids right away. That's like impossible. So I did plan that well. Yeah. We waited about 7 or 8 years until we decided to start a family. And, for any entrepreneur or CEO who's thinking about starting a company and also having whether you're a man or a woman, you have to make time for that physically, emotionally, mentally.
Now, how do you determine the right time? Because you can almost say there's never the perfect time.
There's never a perfect time.
Right.
Well, okay, starting a brand new company and starting a family at the same time? No. Right. Okay.
Right.
But, I kind of knew okay, when the company can afford for me to step out for a couple months is when I think it would be a good time for me to have my kids, right? And
right.
So it wasn't like a number, but it was like a view that I had. I have to be able to devote time to an infant, right? To get this little life off the ground and not be worried about the business.
Right.
And you need to have critical mass to get to that point.
Critical mass in regards to your clientele?
To the clientele, to revenue, to recurring revenue, toward you have to look at the market cycle. Are we going into a recession? Oh, that would be painful, right? But if the market's still in an upswing, yes. Yeah. So those are all considerations, right? And timing isn't perfect, and sometimes things happen, and you have to roll with it. But family planning, if you can do it, is really important.
And what other aspects of that balance what kind of advice would you give people out there as far as finding that balance between work and family?
I mean,
for a career-driven person specifically.
I mean, so I tried so hard to balance, and I had a nanny, as you know, to help, and the business was further along that I didn't have to mind the store every hour of every day and weekend.
But that may be true, but there's always moments where shit hits the fan, and you have to problem solve. So how do you handle that?
So 2 things. I decided that striving for balance you're never going to win.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope that there's an option for balance somewhere.
So what I decided, balance is not a state of being. Right? Balance, there are moments of balance. Trying to achieve a state of balance between your life and your work is impossible, because by definition, your personal life and your company are changing every moment in real time. Mm-hmm. And so those 2 things are always in conflict with each other. And in my mind, at least, it was if I try and achieve balance, work-life balance, I'm going to set myself up to fail. So what I decided was I'm going to look for moments of balance during the day. And if I can have moments, I'll be happy. I'll be okay. Mm-hmm. I have moments in between coming here today and finishing up some other calls. I know that I have that time in the car to sort of collect my thoughts and catch up on email or just do nothing. Right? And so I baked moments of balance into my day. Sometimes I would book a meeting with myself on the calendar so nobody else could, just to have moments of balance. Or in between crazy ass days, where I had 8 back-to-back meetings, insanity, and stuff's going on at home too. And so I would go to the bathroom, and this sounds so ridiculous, but wash my hands with warm water and whatever nice smelling soap was there. And it just grounded me for okay, I've got this.
That's some of the best advice I've heard from you. Just because I'm trying to find, I think balance is important, but like you said, you're entirely right about not being able to create a state of balance permanently. No. It's not, because of life, there's too many variables, right? Yeah. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
But I guess I realized I've been finding ways, not knowing that that's what I've been doing. This is my way of living for me. What I try to do is have something small I look forward to every day. Mm-hmm. Whatever that is. It could be a phone call. It could be an interview like this. Yeah, exactly. Right, yeah. It can be watching the Knicks game with Chris later. Right. It could be something like that. Mm-hmm. And then also having something big to look forward to. Mm-hmm. So there's always something big on the horizon, like a trip or a family event or something like that.
Right.
And then I also remember when I worked in nightlife, taking moments when the night was where I could step out for a second either step outside or step into the bathroom and
Right.
just chill in there and
Just
breathe
to-
for a second.
Just breathe for a second. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's so much more realistic and sustainable than
Yes.
trying to figure out balance all the time.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that
there
way.
there are things you can do, like, have a personal assistant, or get an app to help you manage your calendar, or get a nanny, if you are in a position to do so. But that's not going to make me feel balanced. Like this, again, there's just moments of balance. And then with knowing that, I felt like, okay, I can do this.
Right. Because now for me, these tidbits of information give me direction. Right. And that's what I need. I need these tools to work with, so I know how am I going to find
moments of balance.
But also, yeah, I like having instruction and direction, or at least for achieving certain goals. If somebody has a piece of advice, I'm going to implement it. I don't want to try to really figure it out, even though I kind of thought I did.
Right.
I've been kind of doing it, but now that I know that's the way I was finding it, then I'm going to really stick to pushing that forward.
Yes. Right. And so you build it into your day.
Yeah.
Right.
The gym is also another one for me, especially the gym when I could put my phone away and just have that time to myself.
Yes.
It anchors my day.
100%.
Yeah. Wow, I think I'm going to put that in the reel. That's going to be, I mean, it's so valuable. It's bits of information like that. For me, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So you use that approach for building your family and growing this massive PR company, Horn Group, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You were based in San Francisco, and then you opened an office in New York.
Yes. Right? And we were also in Boston and Virginia, and we were in Seattle for a cup of coffee.
For a cup of coffee?
For
really?
a cup of coffee. Like 3 months before the bubble burst. So that was not good.
Okay. Was it?
Yeah.
It was Starbucks or something?
No, we were. No, I mean, it's just.
Literally for.
Literally, we were there for like 6 months, and we didn't win any business because the .com bubble was bursting.
Well, let's talk about how do you manage a market crisis like that.
Yeah. Well, if you see the train coming, get out of the way. I
mean, downsize before.
I mean, the signs were there, right? What did Alan Greenspan talked about? Irrational exuberance, right? It's like when it's too good to be true, it is.
Right. Like crypto.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And, there were literally, there were companies that would come to us and they'd say, save us a spot in 3 months so you can represent us. And I was like, there aren't enough people on the planet to handle all the PR that could be done for this massive explosion of new companies out there.
Right.
I mean, it was all, and the business models of all these companies wasn't sustainable because they never had thought it through. Mm-hmm. The technology wasn't even there from a network standpoint to support all these like transactional sorts of applications, the first generation of them. And so I saw that, I knew that this, something's not good. And it made me feel twitchy. It made me feel like, okay, this is going to slow down. It can't keep going like this. And then it's the, apple started to fall from the tree or whatever that saying is. That's not the right saying. But, these companies started to fail, and then it was like a shitstorm.
Yeah.
And by that point, we had to do a layoff too, but we only had to lay off 15% of the company rather than 50.
Right. As these other companies were doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And we didn't have as many .com consumer types of companies. We had more enterprise business to business software companies. Mm-hmm. Everybody took a hit, but it was less disastrous.
Right. Yeah, and I think you got to have a balance of B2C and B2B.
And B2B.
And we're launching our B2B portion. Another side of, because B2B is the partnerships, but we're doing corporate outings. So we're doing launching.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. That's finally being rolled out.
Amazing.
Hopefully by the time this airs, it better have been rolled out by then.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
good for you.
Thank you. We've had some great clients so far. We just took NYU out recently, so some good momentum for that.
Yeah, I mean, that. I always said, your business is a function of different vectors, right? It can be market trends. It can be different sectors, like in technology, B2B and B2C. It can be corporate. It can be,
the more
right?
the more you diversify within your realm,
right,
the safer
better.
you'll be financially.
But you can't over diversify because then you lose your focus.
And your identity for that
right.
matter. Yeah.
And so you have to really be very disciplined and not let your head and your ego and the success get away with you.
Or others say, you know what you should do?
Yeah. Well, there's, everybody's going to tell you, and so.
Somebody told me I should have canceled this
Somebody told me
50 episodes ago because we're still not making money on this, but it's not about that.
It's not about that. Sometimes it's not about that.
No, it can become that, and with the hopes that it will for Chris and I, of course. But I don't know. I think when you have a feel, like you said, you have to follow your intuition sometimes.
You have to follow but see, that's
All
why
the time,
that's why being a leader is so difficult, because you're alone when you have to make those final decisions, and only you are responsible for you are the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
And so everybody can say, well, we'll support you and we'll do this and we'll do that, but the buck stops with you.
Mm.
And so when things go well, it's great, party time.
Yeah.
But when things don't go so well, who are they going to look at?
Yeah.
It's going to be you.
Yeah.
And in that case, it was me. And even under all those circumstances where every company's laying people off, and there were PR firms that went bankrupt in a week because they had only .com clients, and sold their businesses in fire sales, right? And so all the employees, everybody knew that layoffs were inevitable, but that still didn't make it okay, right? And why didn't we do this? And it's what. It is what it is. We did the best we could. And this is our path forward. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing I want to say is you have to learn from your mistakes and I learned how to be transparent and with everybody and say this is what we did that didn't work. And here's why it didn't work. Mm-hmm. And so here's how we're going to apply what we learned to how we move forward. And I find too often, an executive who's under pressure will just become paralyzed by what happened. And the most important thing is how you move forward. Right?
I almost want to move forward as fast as possible, which that's not the best attribute to have either. I want to get past whatever the issue is and keep moving. I need to see progress all the time, which obviously isn't necessarily realistic either.
Yeah, it's there's the magic is in, sometimes you have to be fast.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's better to be cautiously optimistic and, and every time when you're running a company for as long as you have, right? Sometimes you move fast, sometimes you need to move slower, sometimes
somebody gave me
just
some great advice. So sometimes time is the answer. Sometimes you wait to see what opportunity comes up next, and what that'll dictate the direction you go. So it's almost like leaving it in the hands of another power, for example, and seeing what happens from there. And the constant reminder: all the opportunities I currently have are not the last of the opportunities I'll receive.
Exactly. But make no mistake, you create your own.
Yeah.
You make your own luck.
Mm-hmm.
And you create your own opportunities, and opportunities come to you because of what you've created.
Right, of course. It's that balance, but sometimes if you feel like you don't know what's coming next, then you have to wait a second.
Yeah.
So you went through this .com bubble burst. You have your family a few years later, I'm assuming?
Grace was born in 1998. Mm-hmm. So right before the bubble was created, Party Like Night is 1999. And then Christina was born as the bubble was bursting in 2001.
Okay.
Yeah. 3 months before 9/11. Yeah.
Wow, what a time to be born.
Yeah.
And let's fast forward to 5 years from after that. Mm-hmm. What did life look like?
So it was interesting. I decided at the time that we wanted to expand to New York after the market kind of had settled after 9/11, and I thought, all my competition is gone. I'm going to bring tech back to New York. And I wanted to make it in New York. I wanted to play with the big boys on Madison Avenue. I wanted to be close to Wall Street when the market came back. I wanted to expand the sectors of technology that we were in. So ad tech, marketing tech was big in New York. It started in New York. And at the same time, the market in Boston was starting to converge and took longer to recover from the dot-com burst.
Okay.
And so, markets change, geographies change. So I decided that I wanted to open an office in New York. I also decided that my marriage at that time was not going to be moving forward after many, many years 13 years of marriage and lots of years trying to make things work.
Yeah.
I took that hard decision and moved to New York. And for a long time, there was a price to pay on many levels of that decision. One of which was that my headquarters was still in San Francisco, and I had a partner who was running it for me. But I wanted to strike out on my own and, plant the flag on the moon in New York. And so I went back and forth between New York and San Francisco a couple times a month. Sometimes took round trips in a day, like leave at 6 a.m, get there at 9, have a meeting at 1, get to SFO by 5, and take the red eye home so that I could be home by midnight for the kids.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And I did that for 17 years.
Oh. And how did your health hold up doing that?
I ate a lot of vitamin C.
That's the secret?
It's my secret, man. I get on the plane, there's do you want a cocktail? I'm like, no, I just want some water and those packets.
Emergency packets? Yeah.
And I would just, before we take off and when we land.
Yeah.
And, and then of course, I would just be completely out of my mind over the weekend, exhausted.
Right.
But I was young, I was energetic. I wanted to make everything work.
Yeah.
And I had a head full of steam back then. But if I had to do it all over again with both of those decisions, right, both personal and professional, I absolutely would.
You'd repeat the same steps.
Absolutely, 100%. And as it turns,
what validates that decision to repeat it?
Well, it was the right decision personally because I knew that I had done enough and that we had done enough as a couple that the marriage just wasn't going to hold. And no amount of staying together would make it better. And I decided that I wasn't going to be the mom who stayed married for her kids because I simply couldn't be myself in that scenario, and that it would be better for the girls to live and be brought up in a family where there was more peace and calm, and
of course,
so that decision was easy. The decision to open a practice in New York and to raise my girls on the East Coast, it was a huge challenge. But in my mind, it was so what? If I buy a house, I find a school, I buy a car. I bought a piano and a car on the same day because we didn't. And I don't know why I bought that piano because I never play it. But I had a plan and I just executed on it, and it was fun. And the girls were itty bitty, but they had the time of their lives.
Yeah.
And they got to fly on a plane and go back and forth.
Yeah.
And their dad came to see them in New York. And I think the biggest challenge was doing both of those things at the same time. If you're going to have a train wreck, Sabrina, make it a big one.
A separation and a move, you're saying?
Yeah, at the same time. It was a lot.
Yeah.
But,
and that's around the time I met you, I think. Maybe a little bit after.
I met you a few years after that. But I have no regrets.
Right.
I have other regrets, but that's
What are your other regrets that you want to share?
how much time do you have?
Let's see. We have some time. Thanks, Chris.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there were some business decisions I made, things that I overlooked. I had an employee who embezzled $500,000 from my company.
God damn.
Yeah.
And I wrote about that in
Yes, I
in
remember
my
that
book.
as well.
And that employee was somebody who was on my leadership team and who was very close to me, was a good friend. And so, what could I have done to prevent that? Okay, there's a few things that I regret not having put in place. And there's some relationships that I had that were just not right for me and not right for that time of my life when I was trying to do so many things that exhausted me and distracted me. But
I think we've all been there.
Yeah. But on the whole, I think there's some clients that we just shouldn't have never have taken on. They were just, sometimes when you're under pressure and you have to make the number, you don't see the forest for the trees and you just take anything that's going to help you get through the quarter.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's necessary, but sometimes it's you'll be worse off than you were before.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're reactive as opposed to the other option, right?
Yeah, and then you're beholden to them, and they're miserable people to work for, and
Yeah, we
life is too short.
Working with Darshan, my director of partnerships, I love the fact that he refuses to work with anybody that's miserable. If
no assholes.
Yeah, no assholes. And I think that's a good thing to stick with.
We developed a no assholes policy. And there were a few times we fired our clients too, because they were assholes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we had clients who were not assholes in the beginning, but then became assholes because they got a new CEO or they got a new person in marketing. And, then it was a race to the fax machine to see who could fire whom first.
Fax machine.
The fax machine. Yeah.
Those things still exist.
Yeah.
We can talk about your career, but the nuances of everything that transpired. But the next thing I think really stands out is the acquisition, right?
Yeah.
It's a services-based company, and acquisitions, I guess, is more interesting when it's that kind of company, right? So you got acquired by
Finn Partners.
Yes. And that changed your life a lot.
Yes.
So let's talk about what transpired.
So we had been in business for 20 years. And at that point, I was like, okay, I got to land this bird somewhere, right?
Yeah.
There's some airport that I'm going to land this, and there's a nice, friendly gate attendant. And and it's going to be, I can't keep doing this forever. So the strategy was to either be acquired, which is what most agencies do, or take a step back and look at my executive team and maybe have somebody from inside take my place, or just keep growing and maybe hire somebody from the outside. And our culture was such that hiring somebody from the outside would have just been incredibly like a needle in a haystack. Yeah. And at that time, there really wasn't one person in the company who could have all of the aspects that I needed in one body, literally one human person. And so I thought, okay, I'll just start looking around. So we hired an agent who was in our industry, well known. His name is Rick Gould, and he presented us to several firms where there would be a cultural fit. That was the most important thing to me. And then we had meetings, and within 6 months, we were acquired. But I knew right away when I met Peter Finn, who started Finn Partners, that would be a great match. Right. And most importantly, culturally, for my employees who would come over the finish line with me, but also for me, because I had never really worked for anybody.
Yeah.
I never had a boss.
Right.
I had clients who I serviced,
Right.
but I never had like a boss that I had to report into or like submit vacation requests from and so, things like that, right? You think about that.
Yeah.
And but the culture was amazing at Finn, and they gave me a very autonomous role to basically bring home the bacon and fry it up in the pan,
Right.
but I didn't have to clean up the grease after.
Yeah.
And I could just go out there and sell, which was I think what I was most passionate about.
I was going to ask you, that's the most enjoyable part for you?
Most enjoyable part.
What was the least enjoyable part?
A lot of the internal employee stuff and
Managing people.
Managing people. Yeah.
It's something I'm learning a lot about right now, managing people.
Yeah.
It can be beautiful. You develop amazing relationships and turn into friendships and so on.
Yeah. Or they can embezzle $500,000.
Or they can embezzle $500,000, exactly. And it's tough because you have to, it's not only your relationship with the person that's working with you, it's also the relationships between them.
Right.
And it's so hard. That's the hardest part, I think, for me.
Yeah.
It's the hardest part, and like navigating personality types and so on is a challenge.
It's
sometimes.
really, and you don't know when you interview somebody, that person is a different
representative.
Right.
It's like any relationship.
Right.
The first 3 months you're dating somebody,
Right,
it's not the person you're going to end up with.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's it's hard to build a team. It's hard to expand that team, and then it's what they call growing pains, right? And so that part just wears on the soul after a while. Mm-hmm. But I figured, 24 years of doing that is, I finally was like, I don't need to go through another recession. I don't need to go through another layoff, another 9/11, another Hurricane Sandy. Like, I don't need to go through this shit anymore to prove that I can do it.
So did you know what you wanted to do following that, though? Did you have a vision of how your life, because obviously you must have thought about that nonstop.
Yeah.
I sold the company. It's no longer my baby. I'm basically working for this company until my shares are vested or whatever, or my earnout has vested.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Did you know what you want to do afterwards?
I didn't. I knew a few things. I knew that I wanted to spend time with family that I never really had. Like being present and in the moment was it's sort of like when I was talking to you earlier about like achieving a state of balance is impossible, like being present in the moment was almost impossible for me. And I finally wanted to experience that, where I wasn't looking on my phone or in a rush to get to the next thing, or worried about the next meeting or the next day, and just to live life in a different level in that way.
Right. Yeah.
And I wanted to, I was like, okay, when I'm done with this, I am never going to write another press release in my life. Okay.
Then you wrote a book and had to write a press release.
And I wrote a book. Yeah. And I wrote a book about, and so I knew like after 3 years, that it was just time. Yeah. And I woke up one day and, I was putting on my makeup and we're going to a new business pitch in Parsippany,
New Jersey. Yep.
New Jersey, which is a long way from Manhasset. It's a long drive.
Like 2-hour drive.
Yeah. And then, the meeting, there was almost like a round trip to San Francisco, if you think about it, from, beginning to end.
Okay.
Not quite, but close. And I looked at myself in the mirror as I was putting on my makeup, and I said, this is the last goddamn new business pitch I'm ever going to give.
This is after 3 years of
acquisition. Of the acquisition.
Okay.
And so I decided that it was just time to start to change my role. Yeah. And I decided that I would do it gradually, maybe go part-time, then become an advisor. I'm still an advisor to Finn Partners. Okay. But I navigated that transition with them in a way that worked for everybody, and no regrets. And then I was able to spend time with Christina, who was then a senior in high school, and my mom, who had turned 90, and she had dementia, so I wanted to have that time with her before it was gone. And that's when I decided it would be time to write a book.
Okay.
And then COVID happened, and that's when I wrote the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like that bought you the time to write the book?
100%.
Yeah.
Talk about being present in the moment. Like,
Yeah. It was a terrible time for a lot of people for a lot of reasons.
yeah.
But the one thing I feel like, I feel bad saying something I liked from there, but
Yeah.
it just gave me time to not feel like I had to rush from one thing to another or feel like I'm falling behind because
Right. 100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like a reset.
It was it was the worst of times.
Yeah.
But it also created the opportunity for some very excellent times and different perspective on life and suffering and and that was when I wrote the book on leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was informative. A lot of great things I learned about you by reading that book and having you here as well. Let's get into some questions here.
Okay.
All right. This first one is very personal. What do you do for fun for yourself?
What do I do for fun?
Yeah.
Two things. I like to cook,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to go out and drink wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cooking and drinking wine.
Yes.
Are you French? You might be French. Or
No.
Italian for that matter.
No, a German, 100%
Yeah, okay,
German.
second.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite dish to make? Not to eat, but to make.
My favorite dish to make is paella.
Really? I had that last night, actually.
Oh,
I had
really?
Peruvian paella last night.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What spices are there different spices?
There's a few different ones. The one I had pesto in it. It was interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that one I don't think was made so great because it wasn't that good.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
it was. I prefer
Yeah.
saffron, to be honest.
I
with you.
love the authentic Spanish
Yeah.
paella. I make it from scratch,
Nice.
and it's amazing.
I mean, saffron's one of my favorite spices. I'm half
Me
Persian,
too.
so
Yes.
they use saffron in everything, including desserts. It's great. What are your new goals and dreams personally, and I guess professionally too? Because you're a professor, you're still advising.
Yes. I taught at Emerson College a year ago in the fall, and I taught a class on leadership that was cross-listed between their marketing and their business majors, and it was my first experience teaching.
What'd you think?
It was unbelievable. It was so fulfilling, and also really eye-opening because these students were like 2 semesters having returned from like the end of the pandemic,
Right.
and what I realized is not just the pandemic, but what a student today wakes up with every morning, right, is these 2 knucklehead candidates that are running for office that, is the best apparently that our country can produce. And, global warming and another shooting somewhere and crime everywhere and guns and, COVID and, then just getting to class on time, right? So like when I was going to college, I just got up and got breakfast and went to class.
Because it wasn't nonstop information
Yeah.
given right into your pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a very eye-opening experience, and it really made me feel a lot more empathy and understanding for what that generation is dealing with and what they wake up with every morning and how do they handle that. And here I am teaching a class on leadership, right? And so I realized that class was as much about how to lead in business or lead your teams or lead a project as much as it was being a leader of your own life.
Right.
And navigating difficult conversations with a friend.
Yeah.
It's the same skills apply. And so it was wonderful on multiple levels. What was not wonderful about it was the commute from where I live in Long Island to Boston every week for 14 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And so I am currently looking to teach that class somewhere in the New York area.
Okay.
But I loved teaching.
Do you have like a dream school you'd prefer to teach for?
I mean, I would love to teach at NYU
NYU,
Stern.
yeah. Okay.
But City University of New York. I mean, and I don't care.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
I don't care really.
City
It's-
University of New York, CUNY. I went to CUNY School, went to Hunter, and it has
That's
the
right.
most Ivy League professors out of any university.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know
I
that.
saw that piece of information. I was like, oh, I can say
Interesting.
that now.
Huh.
Proud of that. I wasn't
Yes,
Ivy League, but
Yeah, but I'm also an executive coach now, and that happened as a result of the book. People would hear my podcasts or, my posts or articles I wrote, and would contact me and say like, "Hey, Sabrina, do you do coaching?"
Right,
I'm
yeah.
like, "Not really, but I'll talk to you." And so that's turned into like a little business.
And which one do you enjoy the most?
Coaching or teaching?
Yeah, out of those two. I mean, they're almost the same thing.
They're sort of the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was sort of a teacher my whole life, like coaching clients, teaching clients, teaching my kids, coaching them. Like it's,
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
good point. What advice would you give high school you?
high school me,
Yeah. What was high school you like anyway?
I just went to my 45th high school reunion. It was interesting.
What was that like?
It was good. I had no expectations. In my high school yearbook, I was always a bit of an anomaly, I think. I went to an all-girls school in Greenwich, Connecticut. There were 33 girls in my graduating class.
Okay.
And we all had to wear these little Princess Bride dresses for graduation. It wasn't for me, but it was for many other people. And in the high school yearbook, where it says like, talks least, says most, right? I was most unknowingly outrageous.
Annoyingly outrageous.
Unknowingly
outrageous.
not annoyingly, but
Yeah, I'm like, wow, that's offensive. Can't believe we put that in your yearbook.
most unknowingly outrageous.
Why is that?
I don't.
Were you like a
I think they just didn't know what
good
to do with
student
me.
and a party animal at the same time?
I think that I started to become the person who I am today. Like junior and senior year, I
Okay.
started to get confident, and I wasn't just the only child of German immigrants. I
Right.
was Sabrina Horn doing things.
Right.
So, what would I say to my high school self? I guess I would say like, go for it. Just go for it. You
Yeah.
can do it.
So it seemed like you were already on that path of growing confidence. So going for it means have the confidence to go do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What's your favorite part of Outsiders?
Favorite part of Outsiders is spending time with you here today.
Appreciate it.
And, I think you guys have grown. It's my daughter, Grace. She said to me before I saw you today, she said, he's all over my TikTok. Like his company's doing really well. His company must be doing really well. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like he's expanding everywhere and, internationally and other cities in the States. Like my favorite part of Outsiders is how you stuck to your vision of like creating events that don't require spending, that don't require consuming. I
Right.
love that
Yeah,
that line of yours, right? And where you can just be in nature and appreciate nature.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And to Christina Bina's point, being on TikTok, I gotta thank a few people. So I have to thank Katie Romero, who's a TikTok content creator who's been pivotal for us and super helpful. Mike Schultz, he goes by It's Your Boy Mike. He's been extremely helpful. I also got to thank Chris is back here for believing in this vision of this podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. This started off as one of his beer reviews. He was doing these beer reviews in his old studio, and I wanted to come in and we had a beer partner and showcase some of their beers, and I did it with him. I was like, this is really fun. And I like the back and forth because he's always giving me a hard time, and we grew up together, so we have to make fun of each other. That's like it's required.
It's required.
So
yes.
I just liked how it felt on the camera, and I thought of an idea of just featuring the really interesting people I've known through my life and through Outsiders and so on.
That's
so
awesome.
it's been great. It's been great so far. So thank you, Chris. I haven't thanked you on camera in a while, so thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for all this technology that you have set up for us here.
We're in the North Face showroom. And
beautiful showroom.
Gorgeous showroom. As you can see here, their motto of never stop exploring is everywhere. And it's a great motto to have. It's essentially never stop living, adventuring, whatever you want.
Right.
So to that, I want to ask you, how do you incorporate exploration in your life?
I mean, if you stop exploring, you're dead.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know what else I need to say about that.
What do you like? What part of your life is exploratory, and what is your favorite kind of exploration? I mean, maybe it's not hiking, maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be active, but what is your means of filling that exploration void?
For me, it's exploring is like learning something new. Like it could be going. So I have a new place out east, and so there's all these hiking trails and beaches and. It seems seemingly endless.
Right.
Exploring the North Fork and the South Fork of Long Island, and it's like talking about like having the time, right, to just take the car and follow the signs and go there and see something beautiful, right? That adds.
Chris, the thing that turned off. Yeah. Sorry.
Can we keep going? Yeah. To see something beautiful that adds to your quality of life, right? But like to go for a hike. I went hiking upstate last year, and the waterfalls in upstate are
gorgeous.
They're just gorgeous, and to appreciate that is also a form of exploration. Like to not just be like, okay, take the picture, do the post, all right, let's move on, right?
You're speaking my language right now. Don't get me wrong. I think if Instagram is gonna get people outside and that's what gets them outside, great. Let's get outside. But there's gonna reach a point where it's no longer about the photo. Like for me, I wasn't an avid hiker in my life ever. When you first met me, I would never go hiking. And I've grown an appreciation for it.
You went partying.
Yeah, I went partying. But even like my active thing, being active for me was basketball and then cycling. That was my thing. So I was always active.
I remember basketball.
Basketball, I still play. I played on Monday. I still feel it. But for me, I grew an appreciation for hiking, nature, and the outdoors through doing it with outsiders. The outdoors to me was always more of an urban outdoors or the beach, or wasn't so much. Well, skiing. I grew up skiing with my dad as well. But I think just being outside for Chris is a street photographer, so he takes beautiful photos. And this is a photo he took last week, which I think to me was the best photo he's taken. It was. Like 5 a.m. or something like that, and he was walking by the Hudson River.
That was with an iPhone.
Was that your iPhone?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Beautiful. So his exploration is walking through the streets, because you can walk through the streets of New York City, walk down the same block you've walked down a million times and see something new.
Right.
So I think being outside and being exploratory keeps you young, personally.
Yes. 100%.
And also, it helps you. Like I heard, it can ward off dementia as you get older.
Oh yeah,
because it keeps your brain active.
What aspect of
like walking and exploring?
Exploring wards off dementia.
Once you no longer, I was like, my friend who's a physical therapist tells me once you stop walking, it's very fast downhill from that point on. So walking is very important.
I agree.
So walk with us outside on the hike. This is one of my favorite questions. What is your most embarrassing moment?
Well, that IBM.
I was going to say.
I mean, that was just.
That was a professional and personally, right? Because that you can't help but take it personally when it gets to that level.
But I mean, okay, so a personal embarrassing moment. Yeah. I was in San Francisco. It was the early years of my company, and I was racing through security to get to my plane. And I was so focused on getting on that plane that, when you go through security, you have to take off your belt, right?
You left your belt.
Take off your belt, and so what I did was I took off my belt and I started to take off my pants. Because I was just like on autopilot.
That's a great one. That's a great story.
And so I'm like literally like, oh. Like I was on such autopilot,
Right.
like talk about not being in the moment.
Man, that is a great one. How far down did the pants go?
Like, you know, like,
The knees?
no, like mid-thigh.
Mid-thigh. So they were down, yeah.
Yeah, they were down.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh my God. And I think there were only 2 people behind me who sort of saw it, but there was a security guy like in the next security lane over, and he kind of like gave me a wink. Oh God.
Oh, you made his day.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's hilarious.
Feel the heat going up my neck.
So there's a few stories that whenever I ask this question, people always, not always, a few people just can't think of something. They can't. So we use certain examples. Like
You can use my example.
we're going to use yours from now on too.
Yeah.
Two others we use. One of them is also a pantsing situation as well. On a public bus, snap off pants.
Oh yeah.
4 catches these like tidy whities on the bus going to high school. And the other one is just one I say every episode. I don't need it, but I guess I gotta keep the tradition alive. Ken Tanaka, a friend of ours, long story short, ran a New York City marathon with food poisoning and had to take like a shit at every mile marker. Took him 8 hours. Yeah.
Oh my
And this
God.
guy is one to not quit. Like he's determined. He's a guy who, you know, when he wants to accomplish something, he accomplishes it. Well, he accomplished that, so good for him.
Oh my God. But vomiting during a marathon is
I wasn't
not,
vomiting.
It was the other end.
It was the other end, exactly.
Okay, well that's
tough.
That's tough.
tough.
That's worse than taking your pants off through
Oh,
security.
absolutely. But the pants off security is funny because it's like he had no choice for that. You
Yeah,
kind of accidentally did that yourself. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the funnier part, right?
Yeah.
Good job. Great story. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right. So last segment of this is a series of 5 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Other than New York City, what is your favorite city?
San Francisco.
Okay. I know you spend a lot of time, and that is your second home, essentially.
Yeah, but now I like London because Christina's moving there.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you had to choose one,
If I had to choose one right now, I would choose London.
London.
San Francisco is kind of hurting.
In what way?
You
The
know,
homeless?
homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to London twice now, and I'm gonna start going more often now that we have London
Right.
Outsiders. And the first time,
Congratulations on that.
thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's very young, so
Yes.
you know it's a work in progress, very much so. But the first time I went, most of my friends weren't around. I'm like, wow, this is not the experience I wanted. And then the
Yeah.
last time I was like, wow, I kind of like the city. It's
Yeah.
cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
It's massive, but it's
Yeah.
quaint and charming, and for the most part clean.
Mhm.
And feel safer.
Yeah.
So I would say London.
Okay. Next question is, if you could do any other profession, what would you do?
Oh. I'd be a reporter.
Oh, okay. Well, still in communications then.
Yeah, I'd be a journalist.
What kind?
Like the like one of those people on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you want to be reporting?
Like catching people in their tracks and making them come clean.
Like
on
local
things.
scams?
No, like national, you know, like corporate scandals and
Yeah.
you know, like
Investigative reporting.
investigative reporting.
Okay.
Yes. Because I used to coach CEOs for appearances on 60 Minutes
Okay.
a few times. And I always thought like being a reporter, a journalist would be really cool.
It's exciting. I mean, you're the streets, right? So
Yeah.
that's a good answer. I took journalism courses. My major was media studies.
So if you like, what would you do if you weren't doing that?
We'll see. We'll see what my answer is when I get interviewed. If they ask me these questions, well, I'll probably hand them these questions anyway. But
okay.
yeah. What's your vice?
My what?
Vice.
Vice? Wine.
Wine?
Yeah.
What
I
kind of
love
wine?
it. And I just...
What's your favorite wine?
Gruner Veltliner. It's an Austrian grape.
Okay.
Very much like Pinot Grigio, but a little bit more full-bodied.
Okay. I'll be in Vienna in a couple of weeks. I'll look out for that.
Gruner Veltliner means green grape.
Green grape? Okay.
Yeah.
Bettlinger. Good to know. What's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear. I have two greatest fears. That the end of my life will be painful and mindless.
Mindless.
Like Alzheimer's or dementia.
Okay. Yeah.
Like my father had Parkinson's. It was horrible. You know, I'm just like my mother. She passed away peacefully in her sleep, and
Right.
that would be a nice way to go, but still with your brain intact.
Yeah.
And my second fear is of heights.
Okay.
Fear of heights.
I have a bit of fear of heights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Is your fear, what kind of heights is the difference, right? There's like heights on a building, and then there's heights like, I guess, from a plane or a mountain, or is it all heights?
It's not from a plane because, you know, I'm inside the plane. Right. But like going up an escalator, and then when you turn back and you're tired and jet lagged, and it's like, ooh, that doesn't feel good.
Really?
Or going skiing, and you're just getting over the chairlift, and you're about to dismount,
Yes.
and like it's like the clouds come out and Jesus is there saying hallelujah. Right?
The first time I experienced a fear of heights, because I do have a bit of a fear of heights, was when I was 3 or 4 skiing, and you know some of those trails where it looks like it's a straight top down.
Yes.
But once you get over it, it's not so bad. But
Yes.
or some of them are bad when you get over.
But when you're standing there, you
Yeah.
know, it's like
It still does it to me.
Mommy.
It still does it to me to this
Yeah.
day. And
Yes.
and what's funny, there's occasions where I'm out on an outsider's adventure, specifically like rappelling or canyoneering or waterfall rappelling. This was probably our most intense activity as far as the adrenaline rush and so on. And
repelling, like
rappelling down waterfalls.
Never.
So,
Never.
So I like to face my fears, and everyone.
I don't want to face that one.
Well, everyone. So it's a waterfall rappelling adventure.
I'm not doing that.
And the guy's like, all right, who's gonna go first? And everyone's looking at each other. Then everyone starts looking at me. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go first. And you know,
Like bungee jumping. Oh my God, kill me now.
I don't know if I can because of my back, but that's my excuse. But the rappelling, you know, when you feel like you have to because others need you to do it, is a different feeling. I think there's like this leadership thing that kicks in. I'm like, I'm just going to do it because I have to, because they don't want to do it. And I have to show them how it's done first. And it takes the fear away a bit.
Yeah.
Because you feel
Well,
obligated to.
Good for you.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The one thing I hate when it comes to rappelling and things like is the auto belay. I'm going to explain to you what an auto belay is. So if you've ever gone rock climbing indoors, I think they might have some outdoors, mostly indoors. There's a machine where you don't need somebody to belay you. And this machine is
What is the word belay?
belay, like someone. So
Get on the mic.
sorry, so oh man, I haven't had to be reminded that in a while. So the belay is when somebody is holding the rope and you're climbing to make sure you don't fall.
It's your spotter.
Your spotter.
Oh, okay.
So there's a machine that is an auto spotter now, auto belay. So automatically belay spots you, like holds you from falling.
Okay.
But this machine, when you're pulling on the rope, it doesn't catch. It's like it doesn't. There's no. It just keeps on going. So, but it catches you after like you drop 4 feet or 3 feet. So you have to trust that it's going to catch you. And the first time I was on a 40-foot wall in Long Island City in this climbing gym, and I'm up there I hadn't thought about the belay system because I thought when I got up there it would just hold and it'd slowly lower me down. And they're like, and I'm pulling it like, guys, it's broken. No, it's not broken. You got to go down. It's not. It wasn't broken. I thought it was because it wasn't catching.
Right.
The trust it's going to hold you. I'm like, I have to trust this 40-foot fall. Like, yeah. So
Wow.
yeah. So I trusted it, and it caught me. Sorry, the camera went off. And it caught me, and I did it. But it was the biggest fear I had on a wall in a while.
Yeah. Like, see that poster behind you?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. That's not me. I'm never like that. You know, like that's not me. You know those ads like where like there's a car on top of like some cliff like that.
Yeah.
You know, like a Ford Ram truck or you know, like no.
Yeah.
Nah.
You know what? I've gotten more comfortable with it doing outsider stuff, so I can't say no. But yeah, it's not so bad anyway.
Yeah.
The last question is, what is your favorite food? But judging by it, you didn't bring it with you today. But
I did not.
What is your favorite food?
Well, it's a toss-up between my favorite thing to cook, which is paella.
Yeah.
Love it. And the second thing is anything with marzipan.
Really? So like dessert? Marzipan?
dessert.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
German. I was like, for birthdays, we always had princess cakes, which are, it's like the dome with princess, covered with marzipan.
Okay.
Anything like almond croissant, like
Ooh.
anything with marzipan.
Yeah.
And marzipan, like almond flour cakes, but just last week, actually, I was like, I feel like something sweet after dinner. So I went into the pantry, and you can buy marzipan in a tube for baking purposes. I just ate half of it.
Wow, you really like marzipan.
I really love marzipan.
I'll take notes on that if ever I have to
I'm
host
sitting
a party
there
for you.
watching TV, like just chomping away at that roll.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, good to know. You've divulged some information about yourself that I didn't know, and I appreciate you sharing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And now more people know you love marzipan.
Yes. I'll take deliveries of marzipan any day.
Almond croissant, all that stuff.
Anything with almond paste in it.
It
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much it. Unless there's anything else you want to share about yourself.
No, I mean, this was so great. Like, I
Thanks.
loved talking with you.
Appreciate
You
it.
are
I love
very-
talking with you too.
You're such a good interviewer.
Thank you.
And-
I've had some practice so far.
Yeah, and Chris, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I'm so impressed with the setup and all these wires. I would be.
We were running a little late today. Normally, I do have it taped down in case anybody from OSHA's listening. I do
Yes.
tape it down so it is safe.
No, but seriously, it was like this just jungle, like massive wires, and look at this. It's beautiful.
I mean, it's not a studio; it's a showroom that we make it as a makeshift studio every time we shoot.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, you built a company from nothing. And that is not a trivial exercise. And you have seen I'm sure I only know 1/1000th of what you've shared with me, but you weathered your own storms, and you are a fantastic leader. And you have just reach for the stars, man. Just go for it.
I'm going for it, and hearing that sometimes just validates to keep on going. As you know, it can be hard. This problem solving will fatigue you, wear you down.
Yes.
And there's moments where I am like, what am I doing? And I think everyone has that in every part of their lives.
Yeah.
And then there's moments where it's like, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
I'm going for it.
Good for you. Reach for
you.
the stars.
I'm going
Yes.
beyond. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
I
being
love
here.
this. It was great.
I appreciate you spending your time here and
Yeah.
sharing your story. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you, North Face, for this great T-shirt.
I like that. I need a shirt like that. They don't have my size, so I'm going to get one. All right, guys. Well,
Okay.
stay tuned for the next episode. Oh, shout out your, what do you have coming up before we do that?
Mine-
Or do you have your social handles or whatever?
What?
Website or anything you want to promote?
Sabrina, SabrinaHorn.com.
Yeah.
And my LinkedIn. It's everything Sabrina Horn.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look her up and stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you.